Oh, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 1142 of FloWrestling Radio, live from Austin, Texas, presented by Nike Wrestling. I don't know if I'll call it a great show. We're going to do our absolute best. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try to not get fired. It's my main goal for every show, but especially this show. To my right, James Dean Rader. To the left, John Kozak. And to the left, Tyler Meisinger. Tyler, hello.
Hello.
How you doing? You know what? Once again, no progress on the bear crawls.
You don't know that.
Another show. What have you done?
You don't know what I was up to this weekend?
You were not bear crawling.
I was doing things that are conducive to bear crawl.
Okay, bear crawl adjacent.
Yes.
Cross training.
Yes, cross training, if you will.
Crawl training.
Yes.
There you go. Okay. All right. You're off the hook for the time being. Hey, we do get to start the show with amazing news. Amy Askren posted today. Ben Askren has received his lung transplant. I'm just going to read it here. We're so thankful to share that Ben has received a double lung transplant. We're forever thankful to the donor and his family. This is the beginning of a new lifestyle for Ben, but every new day is a gift. Still doesn't feel real that he was walking around completely healthy just 5 weeks ago. So much can change so quickly. Please keep Ben in your prayers that his body welcomes the new lungs as if they were his own. I'm constantly in awe of all the people carrying us through right now. I can't wait to tell Ben all about it. I'm hopeful in the coming weeks Ben will be able to give the next update, but hopefully he will wait until the drugs wear off. Blushing emoji. So obviously that's the news we wanted to hear. And Amy alluded to it's going to be life is going to be different for Ben moving forward, but there is life, and that's the best thing. So cannot wait to, hear from Ben, talk to Ben, catch up with him. He's certainly a missed force in the sport and a missed person in my life. So thankful, and not there's still, I think, a pretty this is an insane surgery when you think your lungs are taken out. Mm-hmm. And new ones are put back. Like this, the physical toll of that, just the surgery itself is very real and something he's gonna be dealing with. I would assume it's still gonna be weeks before he's home, given something like that. I don't know that. That's just my read on it. So, but great news from over the weekend. So definitely want to share that, as I know everyone is just I'm getting a lot of questions about updates. You guys are curious, as we all are, and just want to know that Ben's okay. So that's all I got on the Ben front. Yeah,
awesome news. I know it's like it feels like it's been fast, like getting the lung transplant, where it's like we knew he needed one, and then all of a sudden, boom, the news is here. So I know there's ways to support the family as well with the Brutus t-shirt and the donation fund that we've had links to and different videos and everything. So
so
do that.
Still think there's a need there. So if you want to support Ben and the family, I know that's still going to be really, really appreciated, as this is an insane expense. All
right. Great news. But let's move on to some not so great news.
Yeah.
Aaron Brooks, Friday? Was it Friday that this all came?
It was Friday.
Out? I think Friday news dumped. There was some speculation, and then it did come out in an article that Aaron Brooks has tested positive by USADA, but suspension and litigation is still forthcoming.
Yeah.
So we don't know the end result of this just yet.
Yeah, we don't. Weird situation, honestly. It's sort of not super common. Now, who knows if it's just because it leaked and then Aaron felt like, hey, I need to put a statement out there. I gave this feed. I do not think this statement was helpful for Aaron. I thought it was needlessly vague and sort of, we'll read it here. I've been dealing with some major medical issues, which is why I haven't competed this year. To the next and upcoming generation, always be mindful of what you put in your body. Ignorance kills, and even something that seems innocent at your local grocery store can cause consequences. I'll be back soon. 1 Peter 2:23. So this coming out before any word from, USADA, the suspension, the substance, I thought was just weird to just not say what happened, right? What is the substance? What did you buy? What was it? But it has since come out that the banned substance is something called DHEA, and the essential, basically what the Brooks camp is saying, that this was something he took. He talked about Aaron in the past. He had double pneumonia over the spring, was hospitalized for it. And so what he's saying is that, yes, this is something he purchased at Wegmans and he took in order to help himself feel better, help himself heal or whatever. And there's you know, you want to take people at their word. I'm generally I'm naive. That's an accusation that's, you know, I mean, I own that. I'm sort of naive and typically think the best in people. This is one for me where I do have, it's hard to not be cynical, right? There's no, I have a hard time drawing a connection between DHEA and recovery from pneumonia, and all the reading I did about it and research I did, it doesn't seem to align with something that's going to help someone recovering from pneumonia. And also, there's just a higher standard when you're an athlete of Aaron's renown for what you do. And this is someone, Aaron, who already had a previous dust up. Now that was with the TUE and the Vyvanse and all that happened a year ago. So that was like, to me, that was the wake up call. That was the, you know, the Hup 2 moment where you just got to be super locked in, and you can't just be ingesting anything that you get at a grocery store. And DHEA is not an obscure banned substance. This is something that many athletes have been tested positive for and been suspended for in the past. So just on its own, it's not good. The level of suspension is not yet known or determined. That's going to be forthcoming. I obviously am hopeful that, you know, it's not a long suspension, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know how the previous thing in the TUE impacts this, but, you know, the common, what do I want to say? The common sort of tactic for people who are caught cheating or taking banned substances is things like this. It was accidental. I didn't know. I didn't realize. And so people have, I mean, I've heard it. We've all heard that for years and years and years. And there's a little bit of, I guess the word again, cynicism around that. It's just a little hard, incredulousness about, is this really another athlete just didn't know? The amount of education on this stuff, the amount of paranoia that should involve what you put in your body. There's no secrets. I said the same thing about the gambling. Like, listen, you didn't attend the meeting or whatever. Like, you just know you can't be gambling on college sports. Mm-hmm. Same thing here. Like, you know, right?
Well, that's part of the suspension, and what kind of suspension he'll get is whether or not they determine he was trying to get a competitive advantage.
Yes.
So if you say flat out, well, yeah, I was taking it to get a competitive advantage, well, then they're going to throw the book at you.
Yes.
So, like, that's where the cynicism also comes into play, because if you say, well, I didn't take this knowingly, it was an accident, I wasn't trying to get an advantage, then the likely suspension will be less. And I'm not saying he lied in order to get a...
Well, those are the scenarios.
Yes, those are the scenarios.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, we don't know. And like, you read about DHEA, this is not some, wonder drug, right? This is not something that is really aligned with drastically enhancing. It's more complementary to other things in previous instances. But on its own, it's not something that is, I mean, it's considered like anabolic in nature or whatever. But, it's not something that is really generally viewed as something that really helps your performance, but it's banned for a reason also. And it does adjust hormone levels and alter them. And that can be complementary to other things potentially.
To me, it's like, how was the dust up a year or two ago not such a wake up call that this doesn't happen?
Yeah.
So it's either, Aaron was trying to gain an advantage by taking illegal substances, or just a huge mislap of judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess you could say he had it one time, and so it's like, okay, well, it's believable that maybe that's just part of like he just doesn't like he doesn't think about things
that's
like
true.
that, where it's just like, okay, yeah, like I'm competing, I'm gonna take this or take whatever, and he's not really thinking about the consequences because it's already happened one time. It's like, oh, okay, this is kind of like not in his character, but like just something that he is
a shortcoming. Maybe.
Yeah, a shortcoming.
Yeah, and it does feel like on the performance enhancing side, like he's not preparing for any competition. He's not on any team. He doesn't have a match coming up. Not that there's not reasons to do it. That's not my implication at all. But it does somewhat align with, hey, I'm not doing this to get an advantage. I was sick and I'm trying to feel better. I just cannot find how this would make someone feel better.
Yeah,
dealing with what he's dealing with.
There was some Iranian accounts on Twitter that were like accusing the wrestling media of hiding Aaron Brooks's failed drug test, and I was like, man, dude, I just found out about this today, but also Aaron Brooks just found out about this 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't planning on competing at all, the U.S. Open or World Team Trials.
Yeah.
So it's not like he was planning on competing, but there was this underlying failed drug test that was keeping him out of competition. So I think that's part of the narrative that I think it is important for people to know is he had a injury, a minor injury, and then was really, really sick. And it was like, dude, pneumonia can keep you out of competition.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I guess so.
But it's important to note that because if we were viewing somebody from a different country,
100%.
right, and we say, hey, this Olympic medalist is moving up in weight and isn't going to compete for a year, and then pops for a drug that is sometimes used when you are cycling off of steroids,
Yeah.
we would automatically believe that they were taking steroids.
Absolutely.
No questions asked.
No doubt about it. And so, yeah, listen, I'm probably the number one. Like I'm Russia. I've called them, they are and proven to be systemic cheaters. And I think there's a lot of reason to question a lot of their results, right? Iran, I've said the same thing. And so now this with Aaron 2 times, it's like, I have to be somewhat consistent there. Like, hey, if you're getting caught for this stuff, it's not good. It's not indicative. Now, the other side of the coin is, and how Penn State and Nittany Lion and all this crazy 6 weeks that Penn State has gone through is just so uncharted territory for this program. And I think that's really revealed itself over the last 6 weeks. Like, this has been a place since 2009 where really all they've known is winning, dominance. They're the dominant force, not just in wrestling. They're the dominant NCAA program of programs. They are the best. Cale and his staff are regarded as the best college coaches in any sport right now. And there is an element of, competitive secrecy that's just sort of associated. Like, you don't really hear it's more kids out now, but you don't really understand the training necessarily. It's just bits and pieces, how they get so good and the game planning and this, that, and the other. Like that's part of the Penn State sort of ethos, right? It's like it's in-house, right? They keep it quiet. They don't want everyone knowing how they train and how they get so good, right? And they haven't had these 3 things, the Snyder thing, the Aaron Brooks thing, and this Starachi Bo Bartlett article, these are all 3 like the most insane things that have happened on their own. Would be like kind of the craziest thing that's happened, and it all happens in a month. Whereas you go back 10, 15 years, there's hardly anything, right? It's been nothing but really good news, and my point being, they haven't really been in this situation before, or knowing how to react, how to handle something like this. And I think that's sort of rearing itself in some way. And I think, we'll get back to Aaron because there's more to unpack there. But, starting with the Snyder thing, gets caught in a sting trying to solicit a prostitute, undercover cop. And that has been, at best, you could say that situation has been handled weirdly by Kyle. The idea that Kyle is still yet to express a modicum of public contrition about this. If you read that tweet, thanks for reaching out. I'm focused on my family and my faith. When you are an athlete of his brand, of his stature, where you're selling shoes, you're selling merch, like there is an element of ownership, you would think, public ownership, that if it would feel like the wrestling landscape would get, right? That, hey, listen, I know a lot of kids look up to me. I apologize, right? And I think that would be fair. But we haven't really got that. Rudis had some sort of odd, posts about it where they kind of got dragged for that. So that situation is just handled weirdly.
No interviews.
No interviews, escorted the other way. And he doesn't have to, people were like, you guys didn't. All those interviews you see in the mix zone are optional. And everyone else just chose to do them. And we were not surprised at all. We had no expectation for Kyle to stop in the mix zone and talk. If he did, we knew what we were going to ask, but we didn't think he would, right? And that's all well and good, right? But I do think contrition would be appropriate given what happened. I'm sure, I'm hopeful that's expressed to his team, his friends, his family, especially. But nothing we've heard about. So that was sort of handled oddly, right? And to me, I think I fully believe that Penn State was just as surprised as we all were when this came out, and totally caught up. Like, what? This cannot be the case, right? But so, in many ways, I say, hey, you're absolved of this. But now something happens further. Now you're sort of on the hook for things. If more comes out, or if this happens again, whatever, then there is maybe some culpability around the program. And then for Aaron, a lot of people, feel like this is some sort of vindication for the vague online references from Alex Marinelli and Jacob Warner, and from what that was started by Meyer Shapiro's also very vague statements on people taking steroids. The idea that Aaron Brooks, a graduated athlete, somehow means that, and we still don't know who Meyer is talking about, and which was, if you go back and listen, was my principal issue, that, all right, you're going to just put this out there in the ether without really knowing who you're talking about. Was he talking about Penn State? Was he talking about someone else? Because both came back to me. It's like, no, he's not talking about Penn State. He's talking about this. No, he's talking about Penn State. He's not talking about this, which creates this swirl of mystery. And so I don't think it's vindication at all for what my perspective on what Meyer, Alex, and Jacob did and said is unchanged by it. And because I do not believe that one person getting caught necessarily implicates the entire program. I think that's it. That would be an insane leap. However, there is often collective questions that are raised when one person is found to have done this, taken a banned substance, right? In track and field, it's like, there's certain teams that are just like, it was systemic, and with Russia, it's systemic, and so the people do often sort of draw that kind of conclusion, right? And that's fair to ask, but I do think it is a stretch to extrapolate this to, okay, Penn State has a wrestler in their program that, has tested positive for banned substance, which would mean that there's some collective guilt there. I don't agree with that, right? And then there's the Carter Bo saga, which we briefly addressed on Thursday's show because it literally dropped that morning. Mm-hmm. I didn't forget this situation. I didn't forget that. That's just not that significant, in the grand scheme. But then you look at this article, and two things can be true at once, right? I've been saying this morning, like, this is a show that everyone's going to hate because there's a faction of people who are at the gates, and all they want is they don't care about anything other than seeing Penn State burned to the ground and being, vilified as cheaters, and people have, fostered a certain environment and enabled the X, Y, and Z. And you're just not going to get that from me. And I don't think, and I don't believe that's the case. So those people are not going to like this. And certainly Penn State fans and maybe even associated members, they're not going to like this either. That I'm saying, hey, I don't think the Snyder situation, I think that was handled oddly. Hey, I think I have a hard time understanding this DHEA's impacts in recovery. And I'm having there's elements of this Carter Starace thing that are maybe a little troubling as well. Now, on the one hand, this is an article that accuses Carter from one end of the spectrum, basically bullying, to the other end of the spectrum, sexual assault. So there's really grave implications here for Carter and really significant accusations here, which are the foundation of this article is anonymous sources, no police report. There's a lot of reasons to question some of the content here. And to me, I'm a little surprised that this got printed because of just how significant these things are. And for the reason that now everyone takes this article and online, it's like, okay, Carter Starace is now a rapist, right? That's the
narrative.
The narrative. That's the ripple effect of a piece like this, where in America, you are innocent until proven guilty. And proving your innocence here, it's like if someone made, and I've been in this situation, not this situation, but I've been lied about before. And then you're like, well, that's not true. How do I actually prove that? How do I prove that I'm not X, Y, and Z, that I didn't do this? Well, that's actually sort of hard to do because it didn't happen. So proving it didn't. And so now we've got anonymous, no police at any point in time. And then they actually printed and expect us to believe that the Penn State Police Department for 6 months could not get in contact with Carter Starace, who spends every single day in the Penn State wrestling room, who is a student here, who is very easy to find. And they actually printed that they couldn't get in contact with Carter. I don't understand this. And so there's a discerning, or someone with just a curious mind could be like, well, why is all this in here? Why is the girlfriend of a wrestler such a central figure in all this? I'm not sure of that. Now, the other side of the coin is Carter Starace. The question I have is, was Carter Starace given a little too much latitude, right? The things that Penn State preaches, and I would say embodies, was not always found in what Carter Starace did and said, right? I think that would be fair to say. Mm-hmm. It's fair to say that a guy that said he was going to spit in Jordan Burroughs' face, that a guy that publicly quit on the team in 2024, that called someone a pedophile and had a very graphic Photoshop that we all know what I'm talking about, that doesn't really embody the Penn State ethos as we've come to know it. And it is a fair question to ask, did elements of what Carter did, not the audacious, the heinous sexual assault stuff, but, was there an element of bullying? Was Bo picked on? I don't know. That is Bo's characterization. Were certain elements of Carter, was he given latitude that maybe a non-4-time national champion was given? That's a fair question to ask, right? So I think there's probably wrong on both sides. As far as how the staff is painted here, I think that was kind of reckless too. It's almost like they sort of paint them as very ambivalent and inactive and not being proactive in some of this stuff. And my understanding of that situation is like the theft thing happened. That got kicked up to the superiors, kicked up to the cops. And that's where those things go. And that's as far as a coach's responsibility. I feel like they handled their responsibility in that regard. But I'm also not naive enough to think that, hey, Carter was maybe difficult to deal with, and other people that did this maybe wouldn't have been given some of the grace in certain instances that Carter was given.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot. I think at minimum, the article can be painted as there was a really bad relationship between Carter Starachi and Bo Bartlett that bordered on acceptable. At best case scenario, this is not good that this happened at Penn State, right?
Yeah, this is again where you mentioned kind of Penn State's natural posture is we don't engage with everything.
Yeah.
We disengage. And so this is where, it's only been 3 days since the Starachi stuff and 3 days since the Brooks, but I think it would be really great to hear from the Penn State camp. It would be really great to even if it was a statement and for them to say like, hey, to be candid, be like, we were aware of the theft and this is how we handle
yes.
it. And so then it would be like, okay, we get to hear both sides of the story. And then also for Carter, like it's been radio silent from him as well. And so when there's silence, then it's like there's only one voice and everyone's imaginations can just fill in the blanks of everything else. And so when you have that, then it's like, well, everyone is thinking something different and you can play out whatever you want in your own mind and say, oh, well, this is probably what happened then. And so that's where I think it would be great to hear from Carter.
Yeah.
It'd be great to hear from Coach Cal and just to fill in some of the blanks that I think a lot of people are just, making assumptions on one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's an element of stand up for yourself if this is wrong and you did what you said, if you did the right thing. I think, hey, listen, this is a hit piece against Carter Starachi and the Penn State wrestling staff. It was, right? And it had that bend.
Now, I do think with sexual assault stuff, it is a normal practice for sources to remain anonymous.
But no charges.
So I don't want to,
anything. No, I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, maybe that's.
I think the key to this article getting published is the fact that Bo is a voice in it, and he's not anonymous at all.
Yeah, but the most incendiary, explosive stuff isn't from Bo.
He does talk about Carter taking pictures of him naked in the locker room.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
That is bad.
That's bad.
That's very bad.
Yeah, that's bad.
I do not think that is good at all. And that's what I'm saying. There's that element. If that's true, right? And there's only one side, so it's like, well, probably not out of nowhere, but also, I don't know. Like there's talk about this Yik Yak thing. Well, there's no screenshots of anything. It's just, for what I can tell, it's just being reported secondhand to the reporter, and he's just putting it in there. Like, yeah, people on Yik Yak said this, but there's none of that. It just really lacks a lot that you can really say factually happened.
I don't think this article happens without the Bo piece.
Maybe. I don't think it. Yeah, you may think that. I don't think he's the driver. I think that's sort of obvious. Who has been more vocal here? Who has been more, attention seeking, and who has had an axe to grind, a public axe to grind with Carter Starachi well before this, is Bo's now wife. Like this has been publicly aired that she has real issues with Carter for say months, like little dribs and drabs on a little Facebook comment here, a little this, that, there, and then it culminates with this. So I think that's the driver more than anything, but that's speculation, opinion. But all in all, uncharted territory for the program. And I think you're seeing that they don't really know how to respond in this moment. And yeah, not a good couple of days. And it's weird because all three things are sort of totally disconnected from
Not
the
related.
other. They're not related.
Other than the fact that they all train in
That's
state
the
college.
only connection. Yeah. That's the only connection that I see, right? So yeah, it's odd, and it's one of those things like we talked about it last year, like how for all of the success and dominance Penn State has, Iowa still feels like the most hated program in college wrestling. And they're really around the Olympic trials. It started to look, you booed Jordan Burroughs. You got the fans saying crazy stuff. It started to flip a little bit. Like, okay, this isn't great. And then who knows if this is going to really change things at all. And from a wrestling perspective, if the question is this, and maybe I'm not intentionally glossing over this, but people are wondering, like, what is the actual real world impact of all three of these things? I'd say for the Penn State wrestling program, it's pretty close to negligible. I don't think this is something that is going to negatively impact their wrestling performance. The recruits they have, the team they have there, how they've been able to, continually, build and develop. Like, I don't see that changing. I don't see this having any impact on the staff at all, right? If anything, it's just something that's probably just an insane frustration for Kale and company to deal with. It's like, all right, this is not the fun part of the job for sure, but I don't think it's something that's going to, drastically shift Penn State's standing in the wrestling world. And I still think there is a lot to do before you run down this team. And I don't think this 6 weeks is going to have a strong negative impact on that at all.
Yeah. It's time to start asking, is Ono a mole for Team Japan to bring down Penn State wrestling?
No.
But I agree where, they're still phenomenal coaches. This has not been a norm for Penn State. Sure, you can cite the Andrew Long stuff. That was 15 years ago. And basically, no, not that many off the mat issues, especially as far as a high level sports program goes. For them, they're getting the best recruits. They're not going to magically forget how to wrestle, and how to produce champion wrestlers, which is what I think they will continue to do, which is why I think in 5-10 years, we'll look back on this and be like,
that was kind of crazy.
That was kind of crazy, but they're still at the top winning. It's like Aaron Brooks gets suspended. Oh, they're not going to have a 97 kilo, the Olympian. Oh, guess what? Kyle Snyder's still wrestling.
Yeah.
Right there.
And I would say, like, one other thing, they've built this culture where, for how few people have left the program, they've kept that nucleus really tight. Not a lot of people, but in reality, a lot of people have. There's a lot of people that, they graduate, they move on. And the amount of positive things they have to say about the program, even though they're on the outside now, even though they're not there, it was just a collective. It was a great experience. I was treated well. I loved it, et cetera, et cetera. That is just like for people that don't have to say that, who are outside the walls, who are no longer in, need to, if you're saying they have to carry up hold a party line, that's not really the case for so many of these people. And it's just been a positive experience for so many. So that's why it's like on the culture side, it's hard to feel like, man, you've observed this for 15 years and people leave and they love it and the people there say they love it and it's great and they're changed their lives. It's hard to take, 6 weeks of news and paint them as a bad culture. I just can't get there. And I know a lot of people who have been looking to get there and draw that conclusion. You're drawing that conclusion now, but I don't think the previous 15 years can be ignored.
I think a lot of people are jumping to the conclusion that this is the downfall of Penn State wrestling because they want to.
Yes.
Because, and I get it too. I hate dynasties like outside of wrestling, but you get to know Kale and company. They're like great guys, whatever. But yeah, when somebody's on top in sports, naturally you want to see, we love an underdog story, right? So there are a lot of people excited because Penn State has dominated for a decade, and now they're foaming at the mouth to go, ooh, David Taylor left. Ooh, he took a couple of recruits. He's knocking on the door. We were saying then, is this the downfall? And then you add this fuel to that fire, like it's going to explode.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, there's no denying the momentum David Taylor has. There's no denying that they look like the next best threat, the biggest threat to Penn State. That's without a doubt what he's done in a year. No question about it. And that here's the thing. that showdown was coming in the 26-27 year, regardless of this. Next year, not next year, but the year after that, that's going to be a crazy team race. That's going to be really interesting. But that already was the case. That was already happening. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I said this to you guys this morning, and I'm sure there's somebody else that knows Iowa wrestling better than me. But when Dan Gable was running the dynasty in Iowa, I think there was a period, maybe it was like the late '80s, early '90s, where they lost a year, where they should have won, or
they were going for 10 in a row.
They were going for 10 in a row and they lost, and it was, and then I think Gable kind of had this like wake up moment where he kind of let things started to go a little bit out of control here and there. It wasn't like one thing, wasn't like one big huge thing, but he kind of looked at the big landscape or the big culture of his team. It was like, okay, it's time to course correct. It's time to get back to who we really are. And this is kind of what maybe the situation or the last 2 months reminds me of, and what I feel like probably will happen for Penn State. And it's like, all right, we're gonna lock down even more now.
Yeah.
And we're gonna lock in, and we're gonna kind of show everybody who we really are even more. Because it's like, man, I think we can be quickly reminded of who they still have in the lineup next year, who they have coming in: Marcus Blaze, PJ Duke, Josh Barr. It's like we already know, like they're still stocked with talent. So
Yeah.
It's certainly not the summer I think that they wanted, but it could be like a turning point for them to course correct.
No, I don't think it will, but you could pose the question. All those recruits they got were previous to this summer.
Yeah.
Does this new series of news affect their recruiting at all in their future success?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because the bottom line is this: they get recruits because, and for a lot of reasons, but the number one reason is they think they can go there and become as good as possible. That's where they will be their best. That's where they're going to reach their wrestling goals. This doesn't change that, in my opinion.
I think it does. I mean, the Starachi Bo Bartlett story does put the little hint of something in your mind of like, maybe there is a better place to train. It does kind of, and if you're a ninth grader right now, if you're a 10th grader where it's before, like this is what you see a year before you're going to be recruited, or 2 years. So it does put that in your mind.
I will say this though,
Yeah, true.
we all have short-term memories, and come March, they win another national title. I'm not saying it's forgiven or completely forgotten, but to a degree,
Yeah,
it's back to business.
winning
as usual.
solves a lot of problems, and I think that's what got us to in this in a lot of ways.
And also, I think Cale Sanderson, like in your living room, probably solves a lot of those problems too.
Yes.
It's like,
Think about how AJ Ferrari was able to turn his image around.
Absolutely.
Last year.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So,
Assuming there are no more,
yeah,
news stories coming out of State College.
that's true too. It felt like in the early summer, spring, it's like the worst PR they were going to get was just breaking Zach Ryder's heart when they recruited Rocco and he left. Remember
I'm
that?
not even talking about that.
Oh, that was like a big thing. It's like,
Yeah.
man, dude was just heartbroken, like that they recruited this guy, or however it went. I'm not saying how it went, but he's there. That was bad in Ryder's mind, and now that seems really small in the grand scheme. So yeah, I mean it's nuanced. A lot of people just end up on one side of the fence or the other, but there's a lot on both sides here. So there you go.
wild.
Let me see if I can still access my Gmail.
All right,
We're in.
let's move on. Not much really actual wrestling news has happened
Yeah.
in the past couple of weeks, but it has been obviously a big news cycle. But some real wrestling did happen over the weekend. Russian Nationals, which is important for us to know because it more or less determines who we will see at the World Championships. And Russia has set most of their team likely. Kozak, why don't you kind of talk about what happened this weekend, what we need to know as
No
Americans?
weight by weight, but just highlights.
Highlights, big stories from Russian Nationals, big picture. Yeah, it's an interesting team. It feels a little bit similar to Team USA in the fact that there's a lot of new faces that haven't wrestled at senior nationals. So you got 57 first-time senior world team members, 65, 70, 74 maybe, 86, 92. So there's 6 right there. But it could be Sidakov didn't wrestle at Russian Nationals. That might be maybe the biggest story. But Ganeshov, he won 74. So if Sidakov, he had an injury at Euros, if he is healthy enough, they're going to give him, almost positive, they're going to give him a wrestle
Little Jack's
off.
veto situation.
Yeah, a little delayed wrestle off for the World Olympic champion, which I think is warranted. But you kind of go up and down their lineup, and
USA system, he wouldn't get it.
no.
Everyone talks about how we should do it like the Russians.
Yeah, we should.
We wouldn't do this.
So, yeah, Russian Nationals, if you are a fan of international wrestling and you've never watched Russian Nationals, it's a wonderful experience. It's an incredible wrestling. So it really shows you how deep Russia is. And just really, really good matches. But, yeah, I don't know what you guys want to talk about from their
I think a lot of people were, in the lead up to the finals, just, the narrative was just how good Sadulayev looked.
Oh,
He looked
gosh.
so fast, so strong. He was
Yeah.
kind of killing everyone. Then had a 2-1 win in the final.
Yeah, Kurbanov's good.
They're very
He
familiar.
wrestled a lot.
Didn't do anything.
No.
Didn't shoot one time.
Well, yeah. But Sadulayev kind of doesn't do stuff, too.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of just waits. He's like, mess up. And
That's
then
why, to me, it's like he's still Sadulayev.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like to me he's lost much, if any. Of
He
his
looked
set.
really fast, really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he looked lethal.
He looks so good.
I mean, it'll probably be hard to get people hyped for Sadulayev Tazudinov, but
Not me.
how big a match that is, yeah, but we're freaks, right? But outside of even the FRL listeners, y'all will be hyped, but the next layer,
Yeah.
but just understanding of the historical significance of that match is really important and insane and something I cannot wait. And it really is, I'm sorry to say, until proven otherwise, it's a 2-horse race at 97.
Yeah.
And we're not one of the horses, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Taz, he's been injured. He had surgery on his shoulder. He's entered in the ranking series tournament in 2.5 weeks.
See if
So
it goes.
we'll see if he goes, see how he looks there. But yeah, that could be the match of worlds. Also, 86 is worth noting. Kadziev beat Nefanov, Nefanov's a World Olympic bronze medalist. Kadziev U20 world champ last year, so he's still
Young.
super young. A lot of people are thinking he might be the next big thing. Didn't look ultra impressive, but still to come out of that bracket and win, it's worth noting. And 86 is in years past, it's Donnie Taylor then everybody else. This year, it's 5-6 guys could make the gold medal match, and you wouldn't be surprised at all. It's a really, really fun weight class internationally.
Yeah.
65. There was no Mamadov, who's been their guy for a while, who's really good. There's some rumors he might be hitting the transfer portal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that was rumored sort of. I mean,
Last year,
poor guy could have wrestled in the Olympics, and then
you're injured.
They said, how could you do that? You're injured, Mamadov. Don't you remember?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that's not a good way to keep a guy. And so that'd be interesting. But he has to sit for a while.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Aguyev won, and I can't believe he's still having the level of success he is. He's such a small man, and he's up at 61 now, and nobody can beat him in Russia. And Vito beat him last year with one hand.
Yeah.
And
Kind of bad.
yeah, he was in control pretty much of the whole match. So Aguyev or Vito, I mean, if he's healthy and looks good against Jax, he's my pick, big gold medal favorite.
Yeah.
IMO.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else.
Well,
I mean, I ran your numbers on your sheet.
Yeah.
It was just the average for it was It was 19, 20, and 21. So everyone's just right around
Yeah.
two. I think
Yeah.
Russia was 19. We were 20, or I was 21. I could have that backwards.
And
Average
there's-
age of world team member?
No,
The
just
lower, the better, or
lowers the better. So it's just their average 1, 2, or 3. I just did like added up all USA, all Russia, all Iran. It was like 19, 20, 21. Like all
Yeah.
super close.
yeah, the teams are really similar in that like they have some guys where you feel really solid about, really good veterans, but then there's other guys where it's like, I don't know how he's going to do at World Championships. And so you kind of mix and match the weight classes. So I think the team race, it could be super, super close. Now there could be a team that just gets hot.
Japan's
and-
probably going to win.
Yeah, Japan, of course.
You didn't even do Japan just because it's pointless.
It
They're
is.
just so better.
They're so much better.
Just forget it.
Yeah, man. If Japan does have like another really good year, is gonna be.
I'm ready for it.
Really
Listen,
tough.
I'm making the bet. I'm
put your
putting it
picks up
all.
last show.
I'm putting it all on the red, white, and blue against Japan.
Yeah.
And if it goes up, I'm going bust. I'm a dead man. I'm broke.
Yeah. Japan. I mean, they're solid, but
Yeah.
I think
Adorable.
they'll maybe be top 5
Wow.
this year. They could have a really rough year if they get like 1 or 2 medalists and they don't pull through in any other weights.
Dang.
Yeah.
What a system.
Yep.
Cool. Well, yeah, exciting. We'll have so much more worlds stuff to get into over the coming months.
Yeah.
'Cause it's just now. It's still June, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Spade's birthday. Hit him up.
Spay Day.
Our king. He's not. I don't know if I think he's back from Virginia.
He was on
Vacation?
vacation.
He was on a vacation. Back in the greatest state in the union. But I don't know if he's home yet. But if he is, I hope we see him today.
I just tried Googling when is Andrew Space's birthday, and Google AI did not know.
What?
That's whack.
Bro's off the grid. All right.
Let's get to
Cool.
questions.
Let's do some questions.
Okay.
And,
Pulling up
and
the
you can
question.
engage the chat too if you want.
Nah.
They being a bunch.
Nobody's in the
Are
chat.
they being jerks?
I mean, no, it's not that they're. It's. I just don't want to engage the chat with what.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Got it. I trust you. I don't see it.
Let's start with Randall Goldsworthy. He said, Christian, what takeaways do you have from being on the mic with JB?
Oh man. He's, you guys listen and it's like, wow, he's really good at this. But I don't think it's that easy. I think people maybe just take it a little bit for granted. Like what he does is not easy to do, to be that good. It's easy to have, not easy. He has a lot of wrestling knowledge, but communicating it is not always easy. And he made it look so easy. And also there's like technical nuance in broadcasting and when you're in, when you're out, we had never broadcasted together. You have others. There's like that unfamiliarity can sometimes make it a little tougher. And the fact that it was really just so seamless was just like, people were excited about it. But really, I give so much credit to him for that product. And if you're a good communicator, I think that says something about your ability to coach as well. But he's just really good, and he's a wellspring of wrestling knowledge. But he's also another thing we've known about. He is a great communicator, and I think that was really clear as well. It was an honor to do that.
All right. Next question is from Carson. He said, would a high school all-star team beat the team who took 20th at NCAA's in a duel? Could they beat a top 10 team?
I think that's possible, especially with
Pull up-
this crop.
Pull up
Yeah,
the team that
yeah,
took
let me
10th
look
and
up.
20th.
Yeah,
Who took
or
20th?
who took 20th? Top 10. I don't think so. I don't think
All
they
right,
could
let me
beat
pull
a
up
top
these
10
brackets.
team. But a top 20 team in a duel, I think so. Although unless it's Iowa State,
Yeah.
I think they were like 20.
Here we go.
What were
They
they?
were 25th.
Oh, JD.
That's right. It was top 24 make the lottery ball for
All right.
national
Yeah.
duels.
So 20th was actually like a three-way tie for 18th, which was Stanford, Arizona State, and West Virginia.
Yeah. I think you could find 5 wins there with this crop of high schoolers. If you
It
could
is
make a
always
super team.
hilarious to me to think about these insane high schoolers, and some of them, I guess, that go to Blair, Sim, it's different, and kind of like Bishop McCourt too. But some of them are just basically on normal high school teams.
Oh yeah,
And
PJ
then-
Duke,
right?
Racing Valley, just like I'm just rolling up at sectionals.
Right? And he just is on a team with some kid who's wrestling for the second year.
Kind of awesome. Yeah.
Like these two kids are just living like completely different life experiences
Yeah.
at the point in time.
So if you were looking at a high school all-star team, I'm just going through the rankings. You got like Anthony Knox, Jax Forrest, Marcus Blaze, Bo Bassett. Your first 4 weights.
Mm-hmm. That'll work.
That'll do pretty good.
They'll do all right. I think we'll get some wins there.
I mean, then you got PJ Duke.
PJ Duke at 57.
PJ Duke,
D Lockett, 65.
Lockett. Yeah, dude, they're winning a lot. They're beating a lot of these teams.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Next question from
I like
Strength.
how high would they go?
Yeah, honest.
Will Hankel 74.
Crush. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
That'd
they
be-
might be top 10.
I don't think you're wrong.
I think they are top 10.
Yeah.
All right. From Strength and Scrapping, he said, in the theme of chaos, is Pat Downey allowed to compete anymore? How does an in-shape, been on the mat training Pat Downey versus Trent match look? Seems like a physical / fun one for sure.
I mean, I think Trent would be a favorite there. The best Pat Downey in 2019 when he made that team where David was out and Bowden cut down, and he was in really good shape. He was really good. He beat some good guys to make that team. Nick Heflin.
He was at the Olympic trials last year.
Yeah.
And
Not in shape.
not in shape,
But yeah,
but
he's a better wrestler than Curtis Srirachi. Carter's just better at sucking air.
Yeah.
Air hog.
great first periods.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, he's a great what if in our sport. But it just didn't happen.
All right. Next question. We kind of touched on this, but I don't think you guys said who you think will win.
Dude, I've been
Mason
thinking a
wants
lot
to know,
about
will
this.
Sadulayev beat Tazudinov?
I believe he will. I think Sadulayev will win.
So do you think he was actually injured at World Championships?
No. Oh, well, maybe. I mean, I think, listen, there's an element of injury. To the degree, I don't know. But just watching him, I think he gets it.
Didn't you see the picture of him with the surgeon afterwards where he had the bandage on his neck?
Yeah, there you go.
He was injured.
Yep, that was it. I do think he does. Although I think Taz can do it. Obviously, he has done it. I think skill-wise, he's the more skillful wrestler in a lot of ways. But I think Sadulayev is the great neutralizer of everything you do well because you can't get to him.
Man.
It's
Taz?
just,
Oh, you're good.
I was kind of like, Father Time might be coming for Sadulayev, right? His time might kind of be up. Taz might be the next thing, and I still think he probably is. But it's kind of back to like the Dake thing with Trials and Final X where you're like, okay, you saw him lose.
Yeah.
But I still kind of got to pick him because it means I'm picking against Kyle Dake, or in this situation, I'm picking against Sadulayev,
Yeah.
which is a tough thing to do.
Man, at Worlds last year, I'll never forget. We're
do it
like,
all the time.
we're riding David Taylor. We're like, yeah, he's gonna beat Sadulayev. He's gonna beat him. And then we watch Sadulayev warm up. We're like,
Literally,
oh man, I think
we all were like, oh shoot.
yeah. Just
That was just such a. There's a couple moments in my wrestling life. I'm like, how is this? How am I right here? How am I in
know,
this?
right?
How am I in this wrestling room? I just watched Sadulayev walk all the way across the room to where David Taylor is and do this warm up. Like this is about to happen. Like it was just a crazy moment. And then yeah, we all like. We kind of watched it, and then we all convened afterwards, and we were all like had the same thing, like, I think we're screwed, boys. Like, this is not good. He looks unbelievable. And then it goes how it goes. And then our lives are almost ruined when he almost loses the gas and pour, at which point that's maybe one of the signature moments of his whole career. So, yeah.
Which that also is why you feel better picking Sadulayev, because obviously he's always proven he's an amazing technical wrestler. There he proved he still has that it factor, that grit, that I'm just going to go out there and win.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say with Taz, his rise was totally unexpected because he had just lost to, I think it was Betsayev a couple months before Worlds. And so it was like, okay, like here's a guy, he's pretty good, but then just destroys people at Worlds and then goes and wins the Olympics the next year. It was like, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, and he is pretty special, man. It is a great matchup. He is a good type, style type, because he's really long. He has an uncanny ability to finish leg attacks, which you have got to be next level there against Sadulayev if you want to win.
There was a picture floating around Twitter over the weekend of how huge Taz is compared to Sadulayev, just like height difference. He's a monster.
Yeah, he's big. I wonder if we'll ever see him move up. That was kind of speculated because he's kind of young.
Yeah.
But international, I don't know. It's so easy to make it a couple times a year. He'd have to get really big, I think.
I don't know, dude. I think Sadulayev looks way bigger than Taz.
That's a good
That's not
point.
the picture.
Yeah, I don't know. Dude, Kozak's a
Tyler's showing a picture of Taz Udinov at age like 9 with Sadulayev.
Yeah, it's just crazy that Kozak just lies that easily. There's like no problem for him.
Yeah,
It is weird. This is like how much, you see this in other sports, but like we just had the PJ Dukiani one, right? Where that picture is just, I don't know. The mindset to be a little child and be like, I'll beat him one day. It's just like so insane.
Yeah.
And every kid, like, if you're a big sports guy, you kind of dream of hitting the game-winning shot or but like, I don't know, to actually do that is unbelievable.
Yeah. 100%.
Next question.
All right, next question. Kansas Next Topic said, if we had a dual tournament between U.S., Iran, Russia, and Japan, how would you seed it? Which matchups would you be most excited for?
Going into Russia Nationals, I kind of thought Iran was like, I feel like they're the number one team. They're the biggest threat to USA. I think we have a lot of belief in our team, but a lot of it is rooted in unseen, unproven, right? I feel like Iran has a little more proven guys. And I think they have a little more kind of locked in upside, maybe, with Amazad and Zare and just such a proven guy in Gasimpor and whatever. But maybe we have that with Spencer and potentially Vito. So I don't know. I would say Iran, us, Russia, but
I'd probably go Russia, Iran, USA.
We know Comrade. We know Comrade. Japan 9th.
Yeah, Russia and Iran are 1A, 1B, whatever you want to put it this year for me. And then, but for
super close.
With USA, it's just like, how do the first time world teamers perform?
Yeah. USA has a good track record of our first timers can make the team and do well. That's not it's not, they don't all, but often, we have probably, I would say, outsized success for first time world teamers. So there's reason for hope. And I'm obviously always very positive about Team USA.
I think it's more than even hope, too.
Yeah.
Like, none of these guys, it's their first time, I guess, unless Jax makes the team.
No, he's made teams.
I know, but senior level.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, Trent's been overseas. I don't even know how many times. And even Real Woods has gone to ranking series before and done well. So it's not completely a guy going in raw for the
Real is the most insane wild card we've had on a team in a very long time.
Yeah.
3 freestyle tournaments, you're on our team?
Yeah.
That just doesn't even make sense. Next
question. It's from Strength and Scrappin' again. He said, feels like NJRTC was on a heater for a bit there and has been kind of quiet lately. Are they still operating / competing? Guys retiring? What's the story? If they're falling off, a program needs to throw some money at Humphrey to get him on staff.
I think he is there. I thought he did coach at the NJRTC. I think he coaches like Quincy and Chance goes there.
Yeah, Thomas.
Yaya's there Monday. They have a pretty solid program. Of the RTCs, NJRTC, they had a run there where, Reese was at the helm and they had, who else was it? They had Downey and they had Nate Jackson. They had some other, Kolazic was in the mix. They had a really good roster. And it's still pretty good when you look at others around the, for considering.
Is Chance NJRTC or is he like a mix of RTCs?
A little bit. I mean, I think he
I know Reese and Kendall were like his guys when he made the team.
He hustles a lot of different
YC,
workouts. But he's there a lot.
There's a picture I was trying to find.
Wow. He's a
I
giant.
sent it to you, Tyler.
Okay, I'll pull it up.
He's so
He's
big.
so tall. But no, they do a good job. Sorry, Tyler's got to do a lot now because he's getting a picture and
Here's this picture.
Damn.
Dude, Taz does look so much bigger than him.
dude, he's kind of wider too.
Yeah.
That's
Look at how big his head is.
I just can't see how big Sadulaev's knees are, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point.
That is
Dude.
that's in the Sadulaev School of Wrestling in Dagestan where Tazudinov like came through.
Wow.
That's the other part of this thing is like they had the same coach growing up. Like it wasn't just because there are like a lot of clubs in Dagestan, obviously in Mahaktala, but Tazudinov came through like Sadulaev's school, exact same coach.
He is so big.
The more you look at this photo, the funnier it gets, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the smaller Sadulaev looks, the more you stare at this picture.
Yeah.
I feel like the big shorts don't do him any favors
They
in terms
don't
of
help.
size because he has huge
He's
legs.
thick, Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy though.
That is crazy.
All right, next question. Coach TJ Salb wants to know, is it hypocritical to place the U.S. in a morally superior position to Russia when it comes to WADA and USADA? Are we just better at not getting caught? Does the pain of potentially seeing our heroes as flawed cloud our judgment, especially due to their overt faith proclamations?
Whoa. I don't know if I read the end of that part. So, I mean, I think we are in a position, moral superiority. I don't want to say that, but we have an entity that actually is trying to catch our guys called USADA. They're trying to catch cheaters in America. So America is trying, that is true and is happening. And it just happened. That is not the case in these other countries, right? Russia was trying to help evade testing and avoid. So in that way, we do have a legitimate leg up on these other countries.
Russia was almost banned from the Olympics, in 2016?
Yes.
Because of RUSADA and how it was like proven that they were systematically falsifying test results.
Yes. Yes. So they weren't just the USADA equivalent in Russia was helping them cheat. They're trying to catch us in USADA. So we do have a leg up in terms of legitimacy of our athletes. Like now, obviously that doesn't mean that in sports we don't have cheaters. We obviously do. They're out there. And they always say that the cheaters are always ahead of the testers, and maybe that's the case. And that's why you see a lot of these samples. Like we're going to see some from 2015 soon. That's going to come out from some Russians, and it's these B samples get tested, and they get tested and tested and tested. And that's why Pavel Delagnev's an Olympic bronze medalist, because Timazov, initially that there's nothing in these tests that's negative, but then as the testing advances, they're like, oh, this is in there. So that's what we're learning, and that can happen to us just as well as them, right? So yeah, I mean, I like to think of us as being, ahead in that regard. But yeah, I don't know how else to answer it. Is my judgment clouded? To a degree, yeah, you could say it is.
Because like I said, when an American guy tests positive, we're kind of like, what happened? Not, oh, cheater.
Yes.
Right? We go, Aaron, you slipped up again?
Yeah.
Like you couldn't check again? Not, you knowingly took this trying to improve your performance, which we would automatically say
100%.
somebody from another
If
country.
it was an Iranian, if it was a Russian, 100%, that would be my reaction. So yeah, that's fair.
All right. I think this is, I know I said I didn't want to talk to the chat earlier, but I feel like this is a good question to respond to right now. It says, is anybody at Flow an actual journalist, or is everybody only concerned with being content creators?
Well, no. So I am not a journalist. I would say we do have journalists that work here for sure, but like the investigative journalism is not something we really do here. We're not every media entity has an investigative wing or, portion of their team that does that. And that's not what we do. We literally wake up every day with the mission of growing our sports every day. That's what we're really trying to do. And we try to tell the stories of the heroes in wrestling, and we try to promote it and give you 365 days a year. We wake up thinking about talking about wrestling in a good way. And sometimes, in the vast majority of time, we're able to just seamlessly just talk about Big Ten results and transfer news and just wrestling stuff. That's where we live. That's our culture here. That's what we like talking about. Sometimes it does dust up against things that are like, oh, this is like sort of not really where we're best suited or where we really spend a lot of our time. And this is certainly one of those situations. The Snyder thing, the Brooks thing, Starachi. There have been other instances in the past like, oh man, this is not our wheelhouse. That's for darn sure. But at the same time, to say we cover the sport comprehensively, we do have to react to and discuss these things at some level. And that's what we did. And I would say, like, we showed more, we showed better judgment and what's the word? We showed a higher standard than I think the article that was published did in a lot of areas, right? We're a little more, I think there's, with things this grave, this explosive, I think there's an element of like, what's actually behind this? And I think, that's what we did here.
Well, I think a lot of people would like us to be like a tabloid or like would like us to share gossip in the sport like more freely, and that just comes from a place of like being a legitimate fan of
wanting to know,
of college wrestling and like
to know what you don't know,
wanting to know the juice behind things. And it's like I totally get that,
human nature,
but that's not our goal in how we approach how we approach the sport. Like, we're not gonna, like, our conversations are like, all right, what can we gossip about? Like, that's not what that's not where they're at. And that might get more engagement, I think, but it doesn't serve our purpose of trying to promote wrestling.
No.
Well, to like answer Evan's specific question, are you journalists or content creators? We're kind of somewhere in between, right? Because I assume what he means by actual journalist is like investigative journalism. Go break some news story, right? Go do something like this. That's not exactly, like you said, really our form of business. But if only concerned with being a content creator, it's like, well, we could be way more hellacious and clickbaity and smear guys, and that's not really what we're in the business of.
Yeah.
Either.
Well, and even just like you look at some of the things I think that we've been focused on lately is like really trying to tell people's stories. And like, I think of some of the stuff Tyler and Connor, the things they do and like the access that they have, it's like, that's been far greater than any wrestling journalist has ever had. Like, and how we're getting an inside look at how people are being recruited, or behind the scenes look at the world championships.
Yeah.
Like, man, in some cases we have incredible access to tell stories and to be journalists, and not just create content. So yeah, it's a mixed bag of things.
Yeah,
sure.
It's not as salacious, but it's I'm a broadcaster, an opinionist. I kind of editorialize what's happening in the sport. I'm not a story breaker, and that's just I think I think that's what really well said, Kozak. The work that those guys do on that is we're shining the light on the positive, right? And we're not chasing down it's a race to the bottom with a lot of that gossip stuff, and it gets ugly pretty quick. And if you're looking for it, it's not hard to find wrestling gossip. So the other entities have cornered that market, and so go there.
If go elsewhere.
Yeah, I think we have a natural bias, and that it should be recognized. So yeah.
What's your bias, Tyler?
Yeah, what's your bias other than Michigan?
I think our natural bias is to like keep things. I don't know. I don't want to. I think whatever. Kansas Next Topic wants to know, how do you guys feel about Zane participating in claw wrestling this summer?
I had heard. I didn't know that was for sure, but that's cool. I mean, just Zane wrestling is cool. That's good. I mean, recovery is there, and hopefully we see him on the USA Wrestling circuit soon. It'd be fascinating to see where he winds up if he does. You wonder if the PJ dynamic in any way shifts his plans, right? 70 is his best weight. You got this high schooler that's now on the team.
Who you coached.
You cornered him.
Yeah.
Now you jump in the thing. I don't know. That's a tough spot. It's for Zane to decide and the staff to decide, but I'm excited to watch him wrestle. I know that.
I would feel so confident about Zane at Worlds at 70 kilograms. Like if it was peak Zane looking at the field, I just feel like he would be such a medal lock and a
Force.
Yeah, a gold medal contender for sure.
Yeah, bummer.
All right. Mason wants to know, how alarming has the Penn State offseason been on a scale of 1 to 10?
Alarm. I guess alarming. I don't know. Surprising. Yeah, high 8. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what?
No, surprising 10.
Surprising 10.
Alarming 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6.
Reading.
Because like I said, I don't think really this is gonna affect their success on the mat.
One thing I don't know if I said, because it was posted that Starachi's not with the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club anymore. I don't know that to be the case. I don't know that to be untrue, but I haven't heard if that is actually the case. So more to come on that. That'll reveal itself one way or the other at some point, although no time soon, unless someone actually says something.
Yeah, reading the Penn State message boards on Friday was like, there was some definite doomers out there where they were like, "This is the end." it was like, whoa,
That's crazy.
I wouldn't say that, but
Yeah, I think when you look at the history in that place, I think people are just like, I think they immediately drew conclusions and extrapolated things out that maybe were not necessarily there.
All right. This is our last question. Beef and Wrestler wants to know, who scores more NCAA points, the Rainies or Bo or Melvin?
Oh, I don't know. If I knew, I'd tell you. So I don't know where they're going. I mean, I know where the Rainies are going.
I don't think it matters where they go, if I'm being honest. Like, I think Bo and Melvin are going to be successful wherever they go.
I think with the Rainies at Oklahoma State right now, there is the question of like, do they fit in a lineup every single year?
Or is one of them going to have to sit a year or two with Sergio and Jax?
But maybe
I
not.
just feel so confident. I'll say Bo and Melvin just because I feel like not lightweights.
That's what I was going to say, right? The Rainies are going to be in that mix with all those good guys in the 25 to 41 area. I mean,
49.
Bo might be in that too, right?
We'll be in that mix.
Right, but Melvin, he's out of that mix.
Yeah.
Although theoretically him and PJ could be the same weight.
Yeah.
Jaden James.
And no Bo recruiting update or anything like that?
I think I don't know what I said Thursday exactly, but I think they're laying lower, moving slower. Nothing. I think I don't know this factually, but I feel like I thought it was going to move fast, and then things slowed it down, and I think it's going to be, I would say, weeks.
With Melvin just starting, I feel like they'll kind of let things play out. Let him maybe take a couple visits.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. The Melvin piece is what makes the Bo Bassett recruiting really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not in on Bo, it's like, are you going to get Melvin? Like, probably not, right? But it's kind of a bizarre situation. But Melvin is just a real prize, and Bo Bassett is extremely good as well. So, yeah, we'll see.
Cool.
Is that it?
Yep.
All right, Tyler. Thank you. We're going to go. We'll be back.
Wednesday,
Aha.
Wednesday.
right?
Thought
4th of
so.
July week, so Wednesday at 10 a.m.
Yes, Wednesday. So just a one-day break, and we're back Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. 1,142 strong. Thank you to Nike Wrestling. Head to athleteps.com. Make sure you're going. Check out the Inflict 4s. If you're a wrestling coach, Athlete Performance Solutions is the place to go to outfit your team. And with that, we will see you on Wednesday. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.